So tonight I had asked Pastor Chris if I could do an English word. I'm like, it's all English. I'm going to speak English, but like how we've had like Elohim and we've had like Jehovah Rapha, I'm like, can I pick something that's just English and not of a name? So I picked the door. It's so simple enough for me to say, and I think it's got good meaning. So I'm going to go to John 10 first, if y'all want to find it. But I'm going to talk about how Jesus is the door tonight. So the literal definition of a door is a hinged, sliding, or revolving barrier at the entrance to a building, room, or vehicle, or in the framework of a cupboard. The definition of what qualifies as a door is a hinged or otherwise movable barrier that allows entry or exit from an enclosure. And there are many stories in the Bible about doors, but in John, Jesus calls himself the door of the sheep. So if you look at John 10, I'm going to read verses 1 through 11. It says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs in by another way, that man is a thief and a robber. But he who enters by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the gatekeeper opens. The sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. A stranger they will not follow, but they will flee from him, for they do not know the voices of strangers." This figure of speech Jesus used with them, but they did not understand what he was saying to them. So Jesus again said to them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." So Jesus was describing to them how he was the good shepherd, or he was going to go into how he was the good shepherd. But he was trying to explain in the first 6 verses of how him being the only way in or out. And they didn't understand. That's when he went on to say, listen, I'm the door to these sheep, and y'all are the sheep that I'm talking about. I am the door for you. And in Bible times, or in ancient times, shepherds often slept at the opening of the sheepfold, acting as a living gate to protect their flock from predators and thieves. They would place themselves at the entrance to physically block the way, ensuring the sheep's safety. In this passage of Scripture, Jesus was saying, I am the one who keeps danger out, and I am the one who keeps my sheep in. And if anyone tries to come in any other way, they are robbers and dangerous and don't belong with my sheep. Jesus is the door. And as I was thinking on this, I had thought of how you have a door frame, and there has to be a threshold. Like a threshold is what you cross over to walk in or out of a door. And a shepherd's body literally became the threshold if they were sleeping on the ground. You were going to have to step over him, or if he stood, you're going to have to go through him. He's a door, yes, but to me also a threshold. You can't have a doorway without a threshold. A threshold is the crossing over point. God, as the door, also makes sure nothing crosses the threshold that shouldn't. So I'm going to jump to 1 Samuel 5, and I love this story. And it's a weird story that nobody else would love, but I like it. So, I remember when Pastor Chris was teaching on 1 Samuel 5, and he went over this, I was like, oh, I want you to go further in that, but he wasn't as excited about it as I was, so here it is. I think it's just starting at verse 1. When the Philistines captured the ark of God, they brought it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. Then the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it into the house of Dagon and set it up beside Dagon. And if I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry. And when the people of Ashdod rose early the next day, behold, Dagon had fallen face downward on the ground before the ark of the Lord. So they took Dagon and put him back in his place. But when they rose early on the next morning, behold, he had fallen face down on the ground before the ark of the Lord, and the head of this thing and both his hands were lying cut off on the threshold. Only the trunk of him was left. Dagon was an idol. It could not cross the threshold there where the ark was. The ark represented God. It represented the presence of God. So even in a time when Jesus was not physically there, he was still the door. He's always been the door, and he's always been the keeper of what goes in and what goes out, what crosses over and what doesn't. He's the door. So if Jesus is the door, then I wanted to go to doorpost, where blood was applied. So I'm going to jump to Exodus 12. And y'all can just, if you're lost, just raise your hand and I will rabbit trail probably. So just let me know. All right, so if we're going to Exodus 12, I promise I'm going to full circle this. I'm going to read starting at, maybe I'll just tell this story. This is a lot of scripture. Okay, so this is where the Passover was, right? God had told Moses that they needed to sacrifice a lamb and put the blood on the doorpost. Most everybody knows that story, but if not, it's in Exodus 12, and it's really interesting, and if you have a weak stomach, it's kind of gross too, because they got to eat it, and then it's gross. So, they got to cook the lamb, eat the lamb, they have to cook it a certain way. If it's too much of a lamb, then they have to share it with the neighbors next door. It's all the things, but they put the blood on the doorpost of the door. Blood was applied to this doorpost all around, so that death could not enter their homes. Death could not cross over the threshold, and death could not come through the door when the blood was applied. Jesus was the door when he died on the cross, and the veil tore, and death could not come in. We had a one-way street to Jesus when the veil tore, when his blood was poured out for us on that cross. And if you've been in church, then you've always heard the comparison with Passover and communion and the blood of the lamb. You know, he is the lion and the lamb, but he's the door. And he was the door in Exodus, just like he's the door now. So there's another door in Genesis with Noah. And I love this. I'm sorry. Y'all know I like Bible, so I'm just giving it to you tonight. So God had asked Noah to make an ark, right? He asked him to make a boat. This boat he gave him certain specifications for this boat, all the things, and he told him to put a door on it. But when God sent all the animals and told him to get inside, and the rain started, all that, he got in, but God shut the door. It says in verse 16, and the Lord shut him in. God closed the door of the ark. He made sure that what needed to go in, went in, and what needed to stay out, stayed out. And Noah didn't have to close the door himself. God closed it for him. Jesus is the door. He is the keeper of what comes in and what goes out. He guards the door. He opens and he shuts the door. Which takes me to Revelation 3. It says, and to the angel of the church in Philadelphia, the words of the Holy One, the true one, who has the key of David, who opens and no one will shut, who shuts and no one opens. Oh my goodness, my iPad's glitching. It won't go to my scripture. Chris, what is it doing? Oh my God. No, it's like my iPad won't go down to my notes. Wait, I think I fixed it. Okay, y'all, I don't do technology. I needed paper. Okay. All right. It says, I know your works. Behold, I have set before you an open door which no one is able to shut. He is the door and he has the keys. He is the door and he covers the threshold. He is the door and his blood is applied to the doorpost. He is the door and we can only go by way of the door. He is the door, and he chooses what comes in and what comes out. He is the door. To me, doors are a mode of safety, or also for me, they have been a lack thereof. I have been in places that I didn't want to be, and I could shut the door and lock it behind me. I have also been in a vehicle, in a single cab truck, where I was close to the door, and the adult that was on the other side of the other child beside me had threatened to open the door and jump out if the driver did not slow down. I have been on the inside of a home, standing at a door, watching someone walk away, screaming for them to come back. I have been on the inside of a home with someone standing on the other side of the doorway begging to get in. I have been in a room wondering if I was looking at a door where someone would come in and just sit there with me. I have been on the inside of the home, standing in a doorway where I was begging to get out. I have also been at doors that I can't figure out if it's a push or a pull. Out of all the doors that I've been in, that might be the hardest. Is it push or is it pull? How do I get out of this? But doors are doorways. Doors and doorways are there for a reason. And when God is the door, there's nothing but safety there. There's no wondering, am I locked in here? There's no wondering, can he come in? There's no wondering, am I going to be able to get to someone else, to another sheep in the fold? There's no wondering that, because he's guarding it all. He guards and he protects. He covers and he cares. And he listens for any intruders, and he is standing on his post watching. He is the door, and I am his sheep, and he sees me. He protects me. He keeps what doesn't need to be there out, and makes sure that when the door needs to be opened for something to come in, it is. He's the door, and that's what I have.